In this video, I want to show you how to use the Compositor node group that Quick Studio includes. It contains some of the most important parameters to process your renders, all in one node group. You see I'm here in the Compositing tab, in the Compositor editor. I have already rendered this scene, so the first step is to add the node group. For that, we click here. There's the Quick Studio panel inside the M panel of the editor. This Add Node Group button will append the node group for you. I'm going to throw it right here in the middle. And there you see it is already doing something. There are a couple features in this node group, the fog and the depth of field, that are only going to work if we use the mist pass. In this case, I already set the mist before. You see that there is here activated. Now I just have to connect it to the mist input. Now you can see that these effects have appeared. That is the fog. I'm not going to use it in this case, so what I'm going to do is turn it down to 0. So I disabled that effect. What we are going to use is this depth of field. It is now set to a distance of 0.5. We need to find the correct value to have the shader ball focused. Now it is somewhere around here. To make this easier, we have this DOF, depth of field output. So let me add here the viewer. Let's change this to the viewer node. Update this. Okay, there we go. The area that we see in black is what is going to be focused in the image. The rest of the image is going to be blurred. So I'm going to lower this value till the black is in the shader ball. Perfect. So it will be this 0.06 value. Now we can go back to the render result. Let's update this. And you will see that now we have the shader ball focused and the background and the foreground is blurred. We have a couple more settings here, the depth and the blur. The depth defines how big the black area is, the focus area. We're going to leave it in 0, that is the default value. And blur adjusts the amount of blur. If I lower this value, if I turn it down to 0, there will be no blur. If I turn this up to 2, for example, you will see that the blur is higher. Let me change that back to 1, something intermediate, not too high. We also have these glow parameters. Perhaps it should be called glare, but anyways. If I change glow factor to 0, you will see here that glow disappears, that glare effect. Also, if I lower this threshold, more values in the image, lower than 1, will have this glow effect. So let's leave it back to 1, so only values higher than 1 in the image will have the glare effect. Then we have some color adjustments. For example, I have this temperature that controls the white balance of the image. If I turn this up, you will see that the image will become more like orange, hotter. And if we turn it down, lower the value, it will have a colder look, more bluish. If it's 0, then it will have no effect. But let me add here a small amount of blue color. We also have this color saturation. This is very simple to use. If we lower the value, then we will get closer to a black and white image. And if we increase that value, we'll have a more saturated colors. Again, I'm going to leave it in 1. Now let's see the contrast. I use it in most cases because usually the raw image doesn't have enough contrast, especially if we're using Filmic. So I will set this to 2, and that will slightly increase the contrast. Then we have the exposure. In this image, I think that we need a lower exposure because it is a bit too bright. Finally, we have the vignette effect. To make it more obvious, I will lower this blur value so it makes a tighter vignette effect. And we can also make it smaller so you can see it better. If I lower the opacity down to 0, I can disable this effect, or I can use also something intermediate to make it more subtle. And now that we have set all these parameters, it can be useful to save these settings for other projects. And that is what we're going to do here in the presets. So I can name this preset, I call it a studio. Now I need to select, this is very important, select the node group from which I want to save all the settings. Click here save, and now it will be available here in the list. There it is. To try it, I add another node group that will have the default values. For example, we see here in the fog value of 0, and here it is 1. Now I select the node group, click load preset, and you will see that all the values now match what we had here. This way you can quickly save and load your custom settings. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and thank you for watching.